Appreciate it.
Jared Tendler, welcome to the 22Q Charity Ironman podcast presented by VegasPokerRadio.com. I am thrilled to have you on. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, guys. Better question is, how the hell are you guys doing?
What a question. We're good, man. We're good. We're consummate professionals, even though we talk about late at night. If you listen, once the sun goes down, we dick jokes in the whole 9 yards. Where we are still consummate professionals.
The thing I've been wanting to tell you, Jared, is that we're 40 somewhat hours into this. Is my drives are fine, but my short game is really, really, really bad. And I'm just hoping you can help me out.
That's always the first thing to go.
Jared, I've tried to explain specifically, I think, to Brandon and Kevin, but to all of our members, what it is that you do. And I grasp the concept, but I'm not capable of explaining it. So I'm hoping you could tell us what it is that you do and why it's as important as it is.
People pay me to fuck with their heads.
Can we get a freebie? Can you fuck with one of our heads while you're here?
I mean, yeah, I would think that you probably. I'm assuming that some of you actually need it now.
My head is already fucked with. So.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I'm joining a boxing match in the 12th round. You guys are probably already pretty damaged up for me, so it shouldn't take too much to. Well,
you got to we got Jamie Gold coming soon. We got to get our shit together, man. I mean, we could coast through, Adam Schwartz and Shannon Shore, but we got some heavy hitters coming up.
You got some big dogs coming.
Yeah. So when you say people pay you to screw with their heads,
I'm just kidding, of course. I mean, basically, the idea is that you have mental game issues, be it anger, anxiety, motivational issues, dealing with variance, confidence issues, that are your issues, that they are obviously created from playing poker. Poker does a great job of helping them be created, but they're not necessarily like the psychological strategy or the psychological warfare that goes on between players. Certainly somebody constantly re-raising you, or that poker nemesis that you've got, can certainly help to spark frustration within you, but those issues are always yours. So basically, my role and my job is to try to break down those issues, try to uncover the flaws that are creating them, because there are specific flaws that you have to believing in your approach to poker that are yours. I mean, these are not sort of fundamental laws of poker. Not everybody tilts because they get a bad beat. So what's different? What are you thinking? What are you believing? What's your sort of mental approach to the game that allows that to happen that's different from others? And that's essentially what I try to isolate, and then we just work on solving it in a pretty straightforward, logical manner. There's no, mystical solutions here. It's all very logical.
You work with both poker players and golfers, right?
Yeah, most of my clients now are poker players, though.
Is there a similar parallel between the two?
Oh yeah, I mean they're equally as messed up.
And so what exactly? I mean, you just explained what you do, but I feel like you didn't actually tell us what you do. What's the process? Like, what do you do? Is it like lay on the? Do they lay on a couch and you talk to them about their childhood? How does this work?
Well, first of all, I live in New York City, and 98% of my clients do not. So most of my sessions are done over Skype. So if they're lying on a couch, then they may not be telling me. But for the most part, it's all very practical around poker. Occasionally, we'll get into personal issues, but for the most part, it's me kind of essentially trying to diagnose where their mental game needs work. That process begins with a pretty detailed questionnaire where they fill out ahead of time. I review it, and that kind of gives me an idea of kind of where to dig. And then I'm basically trying to decipher like which of the major mental game issues are the major cause of their problem. So a lot of times poker players with motivational issues actually have tilt problems. They quit a session after an hour and a half or 2 hours, and they do that constantly because at the first sign of tilt, they're gone. And so what ends up happening is, months and sometimes even years go by, and they can't figure out why they're not motivated to play poker. all the while that lack of motivation is actually avoidance of tilt. And so then we've got to kind of uncover the sources of their tilt problems. And I have essentially kind of designated 7 major types of tilt. And again, just for clarity, in my world, tilt is anger. I know for a lot of poker players, tilt means basically anything less than playing your best. But that's the equivalent of going to a doctor and having any range of an issue, including this one that you guys are working with, and the doctor basically saying that you're sick. It's like, well, thanks, doc. I appreciate that diagnosis. It's not really going to help you to really understand the cause of what the problem is. So in my world, tilt is about anger, and then all the other sort of forms of tilt, whether it be boredom, whether it be overconfidence, whether it be anxiety and fearing losing money back, all these other types of tilt as they are defined elsewhere in my world need to be sort of defined by the specific cause of the problem, and not just having one blanket umbrella for everything below playing your best, which is just too broad.
Jared, what is your background in education? Are you a doctor?
No, I can play one on TV, but for the most part, I'm just a licensed mental health counselor. So I have a master's degree from Northeastern, spent 2 years doing that, and then 2 years getting licensed. 3,200 hours of supervised practice. It was not a, hey, pass this test and you got one. It was pretty intensive, and that was. All
right, so this is actually, it's not a University of Phoenix type thing. It's legitimate. You're the real deal.
It is. Yeah, it is legitimate.
You said that there were 7 types of tilt.
Yes.
Can you just give us a brief overview of what those types of tilt are?
Absolutely. The first and the most common is running bad tilt. Running bad tilt is not necessarily a unique type of tilt. What ends up happening is that the other 7 types of tilt will happen, or the other 6 types of tilt will happen in such short succession. Because you're running bad, obviously there's going to be a lot more tilt-inducing stuff happening more regularly. So running bad tilt, in some sense, happens because your mind can't reset itself fast enough. So you're sort of like almost kind of still tilting from the day before. You may not necessarily be feeling it right away, but when your fuse is a lot shorter, it's because there's emotion that has kind of accumulated and not been released that sort of shows up the next day, and of course it kind of builds up over several days or even much longer. Running bad tilt is a major one. Injustice tilt, which is often the most common type of tilt that's related to running bad. Obviously, this is you assuming that things are not fair. You running worse than everybody else. Kind of wishing poker wasn't this way is a pretty common example of injustice tilt. Although every poker player who says that also is grateful because that poker would be chess without variance, but they kind of just wish that it would be easier. Hate losing tilt is a big one. A lot of poker players are very competitive, which I think is a trait that leads to a lot of success in the game. But if it's excessive and you're not necessarily accounting for the reality that poker is not the same as other sports, including golf, where you have a majority of the control in the outcome in the short run, then you're sort of primed for a lot of problems. Mistake tilt is another big one. Just being able to tolerate the gray areas of the game, the fact that even when you're feeling in command of your game, you're going to make a lot of poker mistakes. It's something that poker players have a big difficulty dealing with. Phil Ivey actually gave a great article during the World Series this year where he talked about how many mistakes he makes. I think it would be pretty revealing for people to kind of dig that article up on WSOP.com where he talks about that, because it's crazy how pissed off players get from mistakes when, frankly, they're just not that good yet to be that hard on themselves in those ways. Entitlement tilt is, in essence, kind of the Phil Hellmuth tilt, where you sort of believe that all of your prior experience, all the work that you've put into the game, just naturally allows you to win no matter what. You're better. You're significantly better than the fish in the game, and that entitles you to win under any circumstance. And that's obviously related in some ways to variance, but for the most part, it's an issue of overconfidence that then turns into anger. Revenge tilt, fairly obvious. Getting pissed off from other players who treat you without respect, who constantly are re-raising you. They're just putting you in a lot of difficult spots. And obviously, a player that you have a lot of history with is going to fall in this category too. The interesting thing about revenge tilt is that a lot of the times players get pissed off when a particular opponent exposes their weaknesses in their game, and just tactically. So they realize that they're not necessarily great in 3-bet pots, and when they're constantly in that situation, they're getting frustrated because they don't know how to deal with those pots. So a lot of times, the antidote to revenge tilt is just getting better at the areas where anger seems to be showing up. And then the last one is desperation tilt, which a lot of players would call those demolition monster sessions where they end up playing for 30 straight hours and destroying their bankroll. Desperation tilt is basically kind of the line between having a true gambling problem and it being more of like a performance problem where you're just sort of losing control in some pretty dramatic ways and destroying computer equipment or busting bankrolls and that sort of thing. So those are the 7 beautiful types of tilt.
Jared, is there a point of no return for some people where you'll just say, you know what, you can't beat this. You've got maybe 4 of the 7 different versions of tilt going on, and you would be much better served doing something else for a living.
I would always leave that up to the client. There's definitely some tough cases that I've had. There's honestly only been one person that I've worked with that I personally was not able to help and had to refer out to a psychologist. Everybody else has been able to make some either significant or at least adequate improvement. And I think ultimately, if somebody's willing to work at it, they'll find answers.
Are you? Well, I don't. Do you fall under the doctor-patient confidentiality to where you can't reveal your clients, I guess, your patients?
Yeah, I do that mostly just out of respect for them. I don't want them to be thinking that I'm kind of using them to bolster my presence in the community. But anybody who has told me that I can say their name, I can certainly say their name.
Have people told you that you could say their name?
Oh yeah. In my book, I highlight 9 people, so certainly I can mention them. And
what's the name of your book?
So, The Mental Game of Poker.
And I'm sure it's available on Amazon and in bookstores everywhere. That type of deal.
It is, yeah. It's also on audiobook, and people can get the audiobook for free, which is cool.
You get the free. How are you making money?
Amazon. It's their promotion. They basically see audiobooks as kind of the next big thing, and it's just Audible is their audiobook thing, and they're basically just promoting the absolute crap out of it.
So who are the players who you treat that's been publicized?
Dusty Schmidt, who I know is going to be on your show, was my first client and the biggest name. He and I started working together back in 2007. He was going for Supernova Elite and was having some major tilt problems. We basically kind of met somewhat randomly on the golf course. We had some mutual friends putting together a golf outing, a bunch of us, and ended up meeting him. And 3 months later, he was, I think, had broken his 3rd computer. And
if I'm not mistaken, he's actually blogged about you.
He has, yeah, quite a bit, yeah. And
I remember reading about that. He was going through computers at an incredible rate.
Incredible rate. Yeah, I mean, he easily, I'm not exaggerating, he easily paid for our sessions by the amount of computer equipment he didn't destroy. I actually saw firsthand the pile of mice in this corner, in the corner of his room, the corner of his office. He was at that point trying to make Supernova Elite in like 8 months and had no time to spare and wasn't able to get the volume in because he kept yanking the power cord from the wall and was blowing out of games. So, he had some pretty dramatic improvements after we started working together. I think he made like $600K in 4 months. Obviously, there's some variance in there, and obviously he was already a tremendous competitor. But I think that example kind of highlights the value of the mental game. It's very much of an insurance policy on your poker skill. If you're getting pissed off all the time, if you're freaking out in big games or big pots, if you're not motivated enough and you're losing confidence, the mental game basically will inhibit your ability to play at your best, and that's where I kind of make the most money for my clients, is not necessarily making them that much better, although that's actually what the second book I'm writing is going to be about. But the first book is about basically getting you to not do all of the stupid things that cost you a lot of money. So yeah, Dusty's the big one.
What other names have you worked with?
Neiman Kenkry from Blue Fire.
Simoleus.
Simoleus, yep. Did a handful of sessions with Taylor KB, Max Steinberg, who just finished second at the WPT and won a bracelet this summer. I've worked with Ben Wilnowski, won a WPT, EPT, or whatever, one of the ones from Berlin last year. Matt Bolt, also was a big-time grinder from Stocks Poker and Drag the Bar. I think who else I can say.
Are there massive names on your list that you just can't say, like where we would be like, holy shit?
There are a couple, yeah.
Okay. You also host a podcast, right, Jared?
I do, yeah.
And where can people who want to listen to that tune in?
Yeah, right now it's on quadjacks.com.
Oof. Okay, it's on quadjacks.com.
Yeah, Quadjacks. It's not live yet. We're kind of relaunching it in a couple weeks, but there's 21 archive shows. Had a fun one with Phil Homuth where he talked about wanting to take Adderall. That was an interesting episode.
Huh.
But yeah, it's been that's gotten some good feedback on the show.
Is there a 10-minute mini version of your services that you would be willing to perform on one of us?
Absolutely.
Boys, any volunteers? Kevin, Brandon?
Kevin. Okay, I'll go first.
Fire away.
Oh, I have to ask you stuff?
Well, I mean, what's what areas of your game do you?
How's everything?
I just get very angry, like at life and people. Poker is fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I just have anger issues at times. It's like a temper problem, but not poker related. Like I take losing sessions, bad beats. I've never had that problem. I really don't have a tilt factor. I just get over emotional and angry at other aspects of life. I don't know.
Why is life different than poker?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I've been playing poker now well over 10 years, and I've never been a tilter or somebody that lets bad beats or what happens in poker affect me very, very long. Like, of course, if I lose a great deal of money, or have a losing session, which I believe I played great, yeah, it will, bother me, but I get over it very, very fast. More so than probably, I'd say 90 to 95% of people that are in my field.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm also very, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, what are the situations where you tend to get the most angry?
The internet, I guess. The internet in general. I'm a part of this community there's forums and, radio shows, and there's a lot of interaction and just a lot of beefs with different personalities colliding. And I think things like that, I probably, some people may use a term I'm overly sensitive to, and maybe that could be the case, but I find myself just getting angry about things that I guess in the big picture don't mean anything. And does that make sense? Like, I don't think anyone should ever get angry over the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like people that you don't necessarily have like personal relationships with, but just sort of the stuff that goes on the internet.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, overly sensitive often happens when people have either high expectations or, tend to like perfection, or in that sort of category. Would you put yourself in that?
Somewhat.
Okay. I mean, in some respects, that means you sort of want things to go well. You want things to go your way. Have not necessarily control issues, but when there's a lot of things happening beyond your control, and there's things that you want to go well, there can be often kind of a clash that will create frustration. I mean, does that sound right or sound familiar?
That sounds fair. Yes.
Okay.
I'd agree.
So the cool thing is that obviously you've gotten pretty good at handling that in poker because it happens all the freaking time. So I don't know. I mean, we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel here. It may just be applying things you've already figured out how to do in poker just to this sort of situation. And when you feel yourself getting angry, the real key is that you catch it early. What people don't realize is that the brain has the ability to have your higher brain function get shut down very quickly. Some people think of it as the fight or flight mechanism. But basically what happens when your emotions sort of rise too high, there's like a tripwire. And when that tripwire goes, you basically lose the ability to think. We all have situations like that have happened. Now, it's not sort of entirely a light switch. There's a sort of steady escalation that happens. But once it happens, you're basically fighting upstream to gain control of your emotional reaction. And so in the short term, what you want to do is just pay very close attention to the early signs of it and take aggressive action then. That will basically sort of prevent you from having these big blowouts. And if you do have a big blowout at that point, then whatever action you've been taking in preventing it from getting too big was actually just suppressing that emotion rather than actually resolving it. There's a very big distinction between suppressing and just sort of blocking out or like numbing yourself to the situation and actually trying to solve the cause of it. If we're assuming at this point that the cause of it has something to do with some perfectionism, some excessive control, being a little sensitive and kind of wanting things to go right, and I realize those words can be, are not perfect, but somewhere in that range, what you want to do is be sort of talking to yourself, what I call injecting logic into that early sign of anger, with something like the things you would say to yourself on the poker table, like, I can't control this stuff. Like, I'm just going to keep worrying about my shit and not other people. This is not a big deal. Put it in perspective. Just remember that this is just a tiny issue and, in the bigger scheme of things. Whatever you need to do to say to yourself to not just suppress or block the emotion, but actually try to resolve and solve the problem that's causing it. And it's going to take some work. It's not natural. You may have to kind of force yourself to do it, and you're going to have to do it regularly. But over time, not only is it going to get easier to inject that logic, but you're eventually going to get to the point where the reaction is going to be much less. Okay, one of the biggest things that people don't realize is that in the short run in the mental game, focus can be a placebo, meaning that it can almost mimic an act like solving of the problem just because you're paying more attention to it, just because you're more aware of it. You actually might have less anger, and the problem may seem to go away. But what we're really looking for are sort of structural, like actual improvements that are permanent, so that when you go, several months down the line, after doing this on a regular basis, the reaction is much less, and it's much easier to control. But I say all of that because what ends up happening to a lot of players is that as they see progress happen over a short period of time, like several weeks, they start to think that the problem is solved, and then they relax, and then of course it shows back up because it's not solved yet. So the only reason I say that is just kind of keep at it for a little while. But if you don't see major improvements in 2 to 3 months, then there's something else going on that you're going to want to look at.
Okay, I appreciate you taking the time to analyze that and give me your opinion and thoughts.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Okay. Jared, if I knew you had such a soothing voice, I probably wouldn't have had you on so late.
Yeah, I was very. That was like therapy. In fact,
I feel like I was. I'll be 100% honest with you, Jared. I caught like 87% of that.
Will you do Johnny next? Do Johnny next. I'll donate $25 more to the charity. Do Johnny.
I'll if you do me, I'll buy a copy of your free book from Amazon.
Done. I'll even sign the free audiobook for you.
Okay. So what question do you need me to answer, or what do I have to do?
Like what issue either within poker or elsewhere that is a common problem, a big problem, a problem that you feel comfortable with?
I have a tough time maintaining a relationship with a female.
Interesting.
Are you taking notes right now?
I'm just thinking about where I want to go with this.
Are you Googling this so that you can read me what Google says?
Well, how long has this been a problem, and how long do your relationships tend to be?
This has been a problem since I was a teenager. My longest relationship is probably 2 years, and that was with the mother of my child.
Okay. That seems to be a fairly long relationship. When you say maintained, do you mean like for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean that. When I say that was my longest relationship, I mean by a pretty good grip of time.
Okay, so most of them are a couple months.
Couple months, couple dates, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you think it is?
I don't know, man. You've got the 32,000 hours of training. I have no idea. It's just something that, it's just something that happens.
Well,
maybe because I do a lot of.
So
What's that?
I said I know nothing about your personal relationship, so I might have 3,200 hours.
I get very bored with after I don't know what you call it, but after I've hit a certain point in a relationship, I feel like I've won. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know if that makes sense, but I feel like I've won, and now it's time for me to move on to the next game.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the game?
I have no idea. I don't know if I'm searching for something that I can't beat, or not beat. I don't know, that's a horrible word to use. Something that I can't feel victory over.
So you want to just sort of get the girl. Once you got the girl, then the game's over and on to the next one that you got to get.
That's about sums it up. I do a fair bit of I multi-table plenty of fish in OkCupid. Stuff like that. I have a very high ROI. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on. Since Black Friday, I've converted to that type of grinding, and I can't get a successful. I can't. I'm not successful at it. I'm not very good.
I would disagree. I think you're incredibly successful at what you're looking for.
But that's not what makes me happy. That's not what I would. Of course, I would like to.
Well, that's not what you're saying though. That's not what your intent's been.
Okay.
You got to change the rules of the game. You got to change your intent. I mean, if the intent was to win a game and the intent was to multi-table, you've been successful at it. So you've realized that that's not making you happy. That's a different deal. You've gone through your own game in a sense to figure out that that's not what you want. That's basically a part of learning. That's a part of, getting older and maturing. So, what have you learned in all of your relationships that does make you happy? What are the characteristics of a woman that you're looking for that provides that?
That's a good question. I don't know, man. I'll tell you this. I feel like I don't know. You're onto something. It's goddamn magician over here. I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question.
Then how are you gonna find it?
I don't know, man. I'm asking you.
I'm not a magician.
I can't afford services like that you offer. So I'm hoping you could tell me. Just point me in the right direction. I don't know.
I just have. See, the thing is, I'm not here to tell you or anybody else how to live their life or what's important to you or what your values are or how you should approach poker or how how to get the most out of poker or what your goals in poker or in life should be. My job is to help you to figure out how to attain the things you want. And right now you've just said that you want to have a happy, satisfying relationship. And the way in which you were going about trying to accomplish that was accomplishing a completely separate set of goals. And so now what you can do is essentially assess all of the games that you've played and figure out what in all of them you actually liked. And there may be pieces of several different relationships that you ended up liking, and now you're going to start looking for in one person. But you got to do the work. You got to figure it out. Just reflect on it. It's not necessarily something that's got to be brain surgery, but you take 15 minutes here, thinking about it while you're driving in the car, while you're in the shower, while you're taking a crap, and just see what comes to mind, and then start to keep notes about it. And don't just keep it all in your head, because if you keep it all in your head, important pieces are going to get lost, and you're going to remember them, after you're breaking up with another girl, thinking that she was the one, but you forgot something important. So, you just have like a little log, like a log. I'm not calling it a diary, because it's not a diary. It's just a place where you're just keeping these details, so you can kind of get an idea of what it is that you want.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say Jared Tendler is the real deal anyway, because he just made the last 3 years of my life worthless in a single shot. But I appreciate the advice. It's actually it makes a ton of sense. I feel like I don't know if it's the deprivation talking or not, but Dr. Tendler here seems to be the man. Can you do Kevin next? Kevin, are you even with us still?
Well, I want to say one more.
Can I hello?
Yes, Brandon.
Hi, I have a question that this is actually asked in the chat. It's about a friend of mine who has a World Series bracelet. And it's not my question, but someone's asking. It is a really good question. And this is something that this person has talked about many times. And the question is, and then this is a poker player as well, that this individual sleeps well when he loses, but has a tremendous amount of trouble sleeping when he's winning. And I don't mean overall, like over a week, a month. I'm talking per session. Just over like an 8-10 hour session, he wins and he can't sleep. But if he loses, and something even, I guess something significantly, he sleeps a lot easier. Where obviously in most cases it's, I would guess it'd be the opposite. That's how it is for me to some degree, but I generally sleep well anyhow. So,
Jared, can I try and answer this one, and you tell me how I do from a psychologist standpoint?
It's a game. It's a game.
I feel
And
like.
by the way, it was just to give full credit. Hockey guy, that was his question that he wanted me to ask.
I feel like your friend is so focused on money that when he has an abundance of it, he's so worried what he's going to do with it. But when he loses, he doesn't have the money to worry anymore, so he doesn't have that concern, so he can sleep without the worry of his money. How was that?
Sounds reasonable.
Say it,
I mean, I'm going to basically not necessarily deflect this question, but I think that he's got to really look at what are the things that are rolling through his head as he's trying to sleep after a win, because the details of what's going through his mind are going to help to sort of deduce what the actual issues are. And you're right; it could be, there's no more worries about money, or there are additional worries. It could be, fears of what's going to happen tomorrow, and thinking that maybe a bad run is going to happen, or he's going to lose tomorrow because today was successful. So how long is this really going to last? It could be a confidence issue, and being able to keep up that kind of success. There's a lot of things that it could be, but ultimately, being able to sort of self-diagnose what the problem is starts with just gaining a good assessment of what's going through their mind, or what's going through his mind at that time. And what I would suggest doing is, after this, or on these days where he's having trouble sleeping, rather than trying to lie there, staring up at the wall or the ceiling, just take some notes down and just get out the specific details, the specific thoughts that are rolling through his head, and that will help to begin to understand what the hell is going on.
Very good advice.
Jared, you had told me.
I had one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
That the last 3 years of your life has not been wasted unless you don't learn from it. If you learn from what's happened, then it's basically like losing hands in poker because you made mistakes that you had to make in order for you to learn what to do and what is important. So if you can use the last 3 years, then obviously it was not wasted, and I'm sure there were other ways that it was not wasted too.
I feel like I'm probably going to get engaged soon, thanks to Jared.
And Kevin, I think Kevin's completely normal. If you want to do a quick thing with him, but I think Kevin's normal, like that, at least the most normal out of the three of us. Well, Kevin?
Yes.
That was devious.
Kevin, would you like to have our good? Are you a doctor, Jared?
No. I mean, I don't have a PhD yet.
Is it okay if I just call you Dr. Tendler?
You can call me doctor, absolutely.
Would you like to have Dr. Tendler?
We can call the Donna doctor. Yeah. She's the smartest woman we've ever talked to.
I don't know, man. Jared's pretty much laying down the gauntlet here.
I have no idea what to do, that's all.
Yeah, but Donna was very smart.
Donna was pretty smart.
Kevin, scared of Donna. See, what about him being scared of a woman he's never met? Being petrified in the chat. Is there something that maybe that says about him?
I was frightened to interview one of our guests earlier because she had a master's.
That word. He says I was frightened. Joseph, you're the best, brother. I love you, man. I was frightened. He says.
I gather.
Gonna own you.
Yeah, I gather guest bios.
She's so smart. They said like she's won this award that's only been given out like twice ever, and they sent him this big pamphlet in the mail of all her credentials.
I requested guest bios from our guests from the 22Q Foundation.
Win like some kind of Nobel Peace or some kind of prize one day.
I got 4 sentences from everybody. This is who this person is. This is why they're involved. This is what they do. 4 sentences for every guest. Hers was 39 pages.
What?
39 pages was her bio.
Jesus.
And she has every accolade in the world, and I was frightened. And then I think I built up in my head how
amazing she was, and
how amazing she was, and how I'm just a poker player, and I'm gonna have to try and talk to this woman. And then we got on, and she was actually cool as shit, man. She was awesome. Right. So
yeah, you just out-leveled yourself.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. Yeah. Kevin, are you game for this, or are you, or do you not feel like you need it?
I just don't know what to do. That's all.
Don't know what to do, or don't know what to talk about.
No, I have no clue what I'm supposed to do.
As far as what?
I don't know. You tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it.
You mean in life?
No, are you having any issues in life or anything that you want Jared to break down for you?
Am I having any issues?
Like tilt stuff or?
Yeah, anything at the tables?
Anything at the tables? Do you have a problem?
How about like learning poker? Do you feel like you've got a good method for that?
I feel like I have mastered the game. No,
Do you feel like sometimes you don't learn as much because you think you've mastered the game?
No, you're getting good at this.
No, I feel like I can't control my bankroll properly.
There you go. That's a good one.
How do you mean?
I'm going to write on the coattails of this question and apply it to myself. Go.
I feel that maybe I'm not always using my bankroll properly for the game. I don't know, spreading it out thinly. Maybe taking shots at the wrong games or not using proper bankroll management.
Got it. So just kind of getting a little too aggressive at times when, it just, basically just that.
I think so.
Okay. What are the situations where you are, like, what's, like,
I'm a married father of 2 who is supporting my family by playing poker.
Mm-hmm. Right, so the need to make money is high.
Kevin, I can tell Kevin's really tired right now. I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but I think what he's saying is Kevin plays in games that are much bigger than he should be playing in sometimes.
Right. That's not necessarily true. That was actually something in the past that happened a lot, but to be honest with you, that actually happened more when I was actually using poker to supplement, opposed to now that when I'm using poker as my primary form of... If that makes any sense.
Yeah, so you're not as aggressive as you were before because it was almost not necessarily almost like more fun.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. I think I'm probably more stressed about the game now than I ever was because of the need to have to make money.
Sure. So when you say it's just getting spread too thin, are you are you playing in too big of games just overall, or like how's it getting spread too thin?
I think maybe it's more that I have to use the money for real life money. I guess it's maybe not spreading it too thin in the game itself as opposed to spreading it into life outside of the game, I guess.
Got it. So your poker role is basically your life role.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have the ability to divide that?
Not at the present time based on the amount that it is.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so you're stressed right now, and if you were not stressed, that would be the problem. Meaning that it's a good thing that you're having the stress, because it can be motivating. Does it feel at any time where it gets overwhelming and causes you to play poorly or make any poker decisions that are sort of less than optimal?
I think maybe it actually makes me play tighter than maybe I would in certain spots. I don't know if it would make, and I guess that is a part of way of not playing completely optimal.
Right.
That
right.
maybe decisions I would have made before with no fear and going forward with it, sometimes maybe your decisions are changed.
Sure. I mean, you kind of have to look at the overall EV of your life in making some of these decisions. So if you're going to take some high variance lines, but the impact of that is going to have some pretty major effects if in the short run it goes against you. And the amount of stress that would end up causing might end up leading you to make, more mistakes afterwards. It makes some sense why you would give up some edge in the situation. So I don't necessarily know that that's a major problem unless you feel like there's a line that you can draw where you can take or be a little bit more aggressive in spots without, putting that extra stress or making you more at risk for that extra stress.
I think maybe it's just, I feel like maybe it's affecting my actual ROI.
It probably is, but are you willing to accept that given the reality of what you've chosen to do?
Oh, 100%. Because
Okay.
based on the fact that as long as that I'm able to survive and continue on, then it's not really that bad.
Yeah. Okay. So then it sounds like it's a good choice then.
Yes, it feels like a good choice.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes people can get a little too, like, sort of black or white with, EV and giving up EV, and when you got to kind of look at it in the context of where you're at right now. Because if you make some correct decisions, but the high variance side of it, causes you to, potentially, cause some major problems to your life, like that has to be taken into account. I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think it's actually really wise. So, I don't know. Do you feel like that the stress can be motivating? That you're actually, I don't know, maybe capable of learning more, capable of working harder, capable of playing at a higher level because of the stress?
Yes, definitely. I think it's definitely a motivation.
Good. All right. I mean, I think that's one of the misconceptions about stress and anxiety or pressure is that it's a bad thing, and I don't believe that at all. And there's a lot of evidence to prove otherwise. In fact, if you take away too much of it, you can be too relaxed and actually play a lot worse. So I think ultimately, maybe this is just, getting a little bit more comfortable or confident with the decisions that you've made. And also, and what I mean by that is in terms of tightening up in spots, and maybe being a little bit clearer for yourself, just strategically, where you are willing to give up edge and play a little tighter, and where you don't want to, and maybe have kind of erred too much on the side of caution, and you can be a little bit more aggressive, just so you have that strategy a little bit more clear in your mind. But beyond that, I think use the pressure as much as you've got it. I mean, it's there to help you if you can use it, which you clearly are.
Listen, Jared. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, I just said thank you very much.
Yeah. You go.
Jared, while I'm enjoying being wrapped in the warm blanket that is your soothing voice, we gotta move on. We have another guest coming up shortly, but I just want to thank you so much for coming on in the 44th hour, whatever hour it is. And
Jared, this is Brian Gerson. Thank you very much. I added you on Skype because I may need to retain your services. So please. Oh, you actually already accepted me on Skype.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay. And again, thank you for coming on. And are you aware? I'm just kind of fading a little bit. Your voice is very, very soothing. If this whole mindset thing doesn't work, you definitely have potential to work in the phone sex industry. But
that's not something I've considered before. But thank you for that.
No problem. But are you aware of what we're doing? I mean, the actual organization 22Q and what it's about.
Only what's on your website. So no, this is the first time I've actually even heard of the disease. So
yeah, see, that's a lot of why.
That's
mainly why we are doing what we're doing. Did you read on the website just what just the details about what the disease actually is?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Jared, I encourage everybody to pick up The Mental Game of Poker. I think it's going to be a great read. And you said that you were writing another book. When is that book coming out?
I'm aiming for April of next year. We'll see how that turns out. It took me a lot longer to write the first book, but we'll see what goes.
Well,
But basically, the next one is slated for that time frame.
Everybody keep an eye out. Pick up a copy of Jared's current book, The Mental Game of Poker, and keep an eye out for his new book coming in April. Maybe this might work out well, Jared, if we could have you back on before the book releases and we can revisit these issues you've counseled us on.
Yeah.
See if we've improved them, and then talk about the new book.
Absolutely. Would love to come on, and kudos to you guys for hanging in there so long. Just keep at it, and if you get a little tired, just remind yourselves of what you're doing it for, and just power through.
No, you know what? We're down the home stretch. The hardest part was
getting past Jared's goddamn voice. Now I'm gonna tap dance through this thing.
the darkness and loneliness of the night last evening. We all kind of went our separate ways for small, brief periods, and that bond and togetherness that we had shared had just dissipated. But now we've recaptured that, and we only have 3. What is it? 3.
We got
8 hours.
8 hours.
That's nothing. So yeah, we're gonna be fine.
You're
I'm
almost
telling
there.
you guys right now, I'm on hour 56, and I don't know. Whoa, I'm starting to
Kevin, I'm actually thinking, and Jared's a doctor.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a good idea for you to step away for 2 hours, and then rejoin us.
Did Kevin finally lose his pretty boy everything?
Kevin's gone like a champ. I took 2 naps. I fuck all this shit.
Kevin got a little smart at me, and sounded he was angry. But besides that, Kevin's been like a champ the whole time. I never.
Jared, in your professional opinion, would you recommend Kevin? Because I've never heard him like this. I've known him for a decade. Would you recommend him step away for a couple hours?
Kevin, are you okay, buddy?
Oh, I'm fine, guys. Don't worry, I'm alright. I was actually kind of put into a coma by Jared's voice, to be completely honest with you, because I honestly really didn't know what was going on for a minute there, and that's why I really needed some direction on what I needed to say, because I was kind of embarrassed because I was actually listening to every word you guys were saying, but I didn't hear any of it. So unfortunately, it was kind of just like my brain was just becoming mush, and I was just relaxed on my couch in front of my laptop, and I'm just thinking to myself, I hope someone can like slap me or throw some water in my face, because otherwise I'm not going to come out of this trance. But I'm actually feeling a little better already.
Got a second, or probably a 8th wind at this point.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Jared, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. What's your website?
JaredTendlerPoker.com.
JaredTendlerPoker.com, everybody. Thank you so much. Please, again, in April, feel free to come back. And if anybody wants to, what can they follow you on Twitter or any of that stuff?
Yeah, at Jared Tendler. Plenty of information on my website about the free audiobook and where to get the book and all the rest of all that good stuff. So, good stuff, guys, and happy to help, and good luck with the relationships and all the rest of it, guys.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, did we talk about the limbs at all, Johnny?
No, we're not going to get into the limbs right now.
Well, I think that's something that you withheld from your doctor.
No, it's a coincidence. Is it not a coincidence, Jared, that I happen to have went out with a girl with one arm in my teens and recently cohorted with a girl with one leg in my 30s?
Is that a coincidence? I have no idea.
I mean, that's not like so far out of the realm of possibility that it's not a pattern. I mean,
well, I think ultimately the number of limbs that a woman has should be less important than the quality of the woman and the quality of the relationship that you're looking for.
You must get tons of pussy, dude. I'm not even joking. You must get tons and tons of pussy.
I am engaged now, so.
Okay, I see 22Q people in the chat. Let's tone it down there, Johnny boy.
Sorry.
Let's tone it down, okay?
All right, Jared. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Be well.
Bye. That was Jared Tendler, ladies and gentlemen, our mindset expert.